Hello everyone. The heir to the prestigious culinary industry has found an unknown chef in the remote mountains and forests, originally intended to use all tricks to save the recipe, but accidentally stepped on the enemy's cabbage garden. The chef approached, holding a scythe, and pulled the unsteady heir to the side, just to protect his wealth. Bio Mu is the second son of a leading Korean food group. His mother is the chairman of the culinary world. What made her most angry was that the motorcycle restaurant was not equipped with a Michelin star. She entrusted that responsibility to her two sons, considering it as a criterion for inheriting the group. To win the right to inherit, the two brothers competed with each other. Bio Mu was decisive and cold when he heard the secretary say that he could not buy a grilled abalone shop, because the owner of the salon is extremely stubborn, not accepting any conditions. Bio Mu criticized the secretary for being useless, and went to the grilled abalone shop. He parked the car right where the customer was waiting. Then he gave the boss some photos in front of everyone, by chun his illegal gambling behavior. He threatened, if the boss did not want his partner or family members to know about this illegal business, then accept the acquisition and hand over the recipe to him. Previously, Duckweed also used the same trick, robbing countless restaurants, large and small, just to appropriate recipes. He also warned chefs in his restaurant chain. He has collected every of Korea's most famous recipes. The chef just needs to follow it, ensuring the full color, aroma, and taste. The new season menu is about to be launched. He asked the chef to complete the main course, grilled mushroom slices perfectly. Take that as a weapon to win 3 Michelin stars. The chef was shocked to study with all his heart, and finally made him satisfied. Bio Mu immediately announced, tomorrow the menu will be announced as planned. No matter what, you have to win 3 stars. But at this moment, the secretary came to report, there was another restaurant on the internet. There is also a popular grilled mushroom slice on the menu. The food there made was almost identical to theirs. The secretary thinks that the restaurant's rationality is unique, and then there is a move. Therefore, the launch of the menu should be postponed. Duckweed is not committed to admitting defeat. He ordered to keep all the ingredients in a ready state. He will personally handle the other party, grab their recipe. Duckweed drives to Cheonju. He thought that restaurant was a luxurious, professional place. But after following the winding navigation for a while, he just found a restaurant located in a remote alley. The restaurant was called Junj, his face was gray, and there was no decoration. He thought he had come to the wrong place, but out of curiosity he still walked inside. There was not a shadow of a person inside. After searching everywhere, he found a figure busy in the vegetable garden behind. He walked in to serve vegetables and asked the owner where he was. The person saw him stepping on the cabbage. Holding the scythe in his hand, he moved closer step by step. Duckweed backs back continuously, due to loss of balance by falling backwards. At the critical moment, the other person promptly reached out and pulled him back. But then he used force to push him to fall into the open ground, then carefully rebuild the cabbage plant that was trampled on by him. He angrily protested. Just because of a cabbage plant, the girl ruthlessly pushed him down. She didn't say a word, and went straight to the busy kitchen. At this time, he realized that the person in front of him was the owner of the restaurant. He thought the owner was a middle-aged aunt. A second later, she took off her bottle cap to reveal the real vibration. He deserved it because in front of him was a young and beautiful girl. Duckweed tries to force herself to get out of overwhelm. He held out a photo of a sturdy grilled mushroom slice, asking her to make a portion for him. The owner of Jeonju emphasized that this dish is called the tradition of burning snow and that there are not enough ingredients now. Duckweed immediately asked what ingredients he needed. He would go buy it right away. Jeonju said that he needed beef but meat and that it had to be a cow raised by Mr. A at running site B. Duckweed uses monetary power to buy beef buttocks in the market. Tactics: drop wide nets, catch a lot of fish. While he was at the market, Jeonju went to run the chicken to buy eggs. The owner ran helplessly and said, his wife is sick so she can't sell it, because the chickens only obey each of his wives. Anyone else who enters will be kicked out by the dust bag pecking. Jeonju ignored the owner who ran tensely and fiercely rushed into the chicken coop. The hen is fierce, she is even more fierce than the chicken. In the end, she terrified the chickens and took a basket of eggs to take home. As soon as he arrived at the store, Jeonju saw that the fried door was full of papers demanding rent, water and chicken money, all bills. She angrily tore up all the bills and put them in her mouth to eat. At the same time, that strange act was caught by the duckweed who had just turned around. Duckweed placed the pile of beef she had just bought in front of her, and let her choose it herself. She opened a box of items in a series and tried a piece. Confirmed that only this box is the beef but she needs. But beef buttocks alone are not enough. In order to pick the freshest velvet yew mushroom, Xianju immediately led the duckweed to the mountain. When the duckweed was so tired that he couldn't breathe, he was excited when he saw a velvet yew mushroom in front of him. Xianju tells him that this mushroom is not mature enough, and it is too early to pick it down now. Soon after, Xianju she carefully lifted, protected thoroughly, and did not pay attention, so she stepped on her leg and slipped and fell backwards. Fortunately, the duckweed picked her up in time, otherwise there would have been a big accident. Back at the restaurant, Xianju begins to prepare the dish sequentially. Mu observed the whole process. He discovered from the ingredients to the cooking method are completely different from the grilled mushroom slices at his restaurant. When Xianju brought the complete dish in front of him, he had just eaten a bite. The taste buds were immediately brought to the peak of the smoke. He was sure that he had never eaten anything so delicious. Not only did he eat the main meat clean, but he also did not spare the sauce. After eating, he immediately proposed to buy the restaurant. Seeing Xianju refuse, he changed his tactics, saying that he could invest, helping the restaurant grow and grow. As long as Xianju is willing to share the recipe, no matter what form it takes, Xianju refuses. Because she saw that he was just a person who came for profit. A businessman who doesn't understand anything about food. I don't understand how much enthusiasm and sincerity behind a dish is precious. He didn't understand at all. Mu retorted, Xianju always flattered with his heart. But in the end there was no profit. She couldn't hold on to the place where she had put all her heart. After the quarrel, the duckweed left empty-handed. At this time, Xianju was asked by the landlord to ask for rent, and the landlord gave her a 1-month deadline. If it is still delayed, the house will be recovered. Xianju fell into a dilemma. She remembered what she said, forced to admit that he is good at cooking but not good at management. When Xianju has difficulties, the situation of the duckweed is no better. On the way back, he received a call from his secretary. The secretary told him to watch the news. Duckweed opened the news. The media was reporting. The owner of the grilled abalone shop he once bought left a suicide note, denouncing the restaurant of occupying the premises and threatening him. Fortunately, the boss is not in danger and is currently being treated at the hospital. Duckweed immediately went to the hospital. He was prepared to kneel down to apologize, begging for forgiveness. But when he entered the hospital room, he heard the boss making a phone call. He laughed and told the person on the other end that he had only taken a few vitamins. The money was enough, thanks to thanking the chief executive. He immediately realized that the director he was referring to was his brother. He was shocked to realize that his brother had used despicable tricks to harm him. He immediately called his mother and explained that he was completely innocent. Unfortunately, his mother only looked at the results, not the process. The troubles he caused the company's stock price to fall. After a vote by the shareholders, they decided to dismiss him as a director. The restaurant he was managing was also handed over to his brother to take over. He reflected on his situation, but his mother advised him to take this opportunity to think about what he could do. The agenda is a test of real ability. Mu once again returned to the Dung Goat restaurant. He confidently lit a cigarette, posed dashingly, and posed in front of Xianju. Who would have thought that Xianju immediately snatched the cigarette from his mouth and slammed it on the ground. Ordered him to pick up the cigarette, but Mu investigated that Xianju owed a sum of money. He offered a purchase contract on the condition that he would help her pay off the debt. Convinced Xianju to hand over the restaurant to him. Xianju will sign 2 contracts in a row, resolutely not cooperating with Duckweed. Mu did not give up, laying out a series of contracts in front of her, giving her the freedom to choose. Because the duckweed kept sticking to the coconut string, Xianju decisively made a condition. As long as she agrees to be an employee in her restaurant, she will consider accepting the investment to regain cooking secrets and revive a career. Duckweed did not hesitate to accept that condition. The two signed the agreement. Xianju was in charge of the food, and Mu was in charge of the management. The two did not interfere with the other's decision. The next day, She sees Jeonju secretly making a deal with a man. He thought the two of them were doing shady things. Who would have thought that what was in Jeonju's hands was chili powder? The man asked her to pay in full at once, but Jeonju couldn't afford it. The two negotiations failed, and Jeonju was forced to give up the chili powder. She was so heartbroken that she lay crying in her room. It is a rare chili powder of excellent quality. Bio-mu took advantage of the opportunity to remind her that she always tried to choose high-quality ingredients. Excessive costs are the main reason why restaurants are not profitable, can be replaced with lower-priced materials. But Jeonju firmly refused to use cheap substitutes to preserve the taste and quality of the food. In order to quickly get the recipe of Jeonju, Bio-mu spread the excuse of recruiting people who want to bring their chef into the restaurant. He nominated his chosen one for Jeonju. Unexpectedly, Jeonju brought a person back from outside, announcing that he had chosen a new employee. That person used to work at a bean sprout soup shop for 15 years. From making cars to washing dishes, taking care of all the work in the kitchen, he is an effective assistant. The plan of the duckweed was broken, and he looked at the new person named Mi-eung with an unpleasant look. But if you don't know how to look at other people's faces, it's okay to just call me sister. Bio-mu couldn't help but smile and call out to her. Undeterred, he blamed Jeonju for acting arbitrarily, refusing to recruit the talented chef introduced by him. Choosing someone who looks at you is not as valuable as your eyebrows. Jeonju retorted he worked as a restaurant manager, but he didn't contribute anything, not qualified to criticize her. Touched by narcissism, he announced that he would go to a large factory tomorrow, expanding the number of restaurant tables and chairs. As soon as he spoke, he discovered that his credit card was frozen, and the car was also confiscated by the company. Originally planned to stay in a 5-star hotel, he finally had to sell the suit he was wearing, in exchange for a temporary accommodation in a small market house. He didn't want to be looked down on by Jeonju, so he promised to buy a new table, so he had to do it. There was no other way. He gritted his teeth and pledged his expensive watch. Then he showed off his achievements to Jeonju and Mi-eung, asking how the table was. But Jeonju is not very interesting to impress and prove his ability. Bio-mu called his close friends or brothers to call his disciples, inviting them to the restaurant to try it. But everyone knew that he was in need, so they all used excuses to refuse. Only one friend made a coach, asked him to send some photos of the dish to help promote it on social networks. Bio-mu was overjoyed, hurriedly asked Jeonju to make a portion of hot ice mixed rice and take a few more beautiful plates to take pictures. But Jeonju thinks that this dish must be eaten hot to be delicious, not wanting to waste it just for taking pictures. The two disagreed and began to argue. Mi-eung-chi ignored their argument, attentively made kimchi pancakes, and carelessly spilled the kimchi bowl. Kimchi all over the country and the one that was all over the table, looking at the table bought with a fine watch being dirty. Bio-mu, who was already upset because of the argument with Jeonju, immediately got angry. He loudly scolded the tentacle cancer, saying that she didn't always follow his orders. Then he blamed Jeonju for refusing to accept a chef who graduated from the Academy of Fine Arts, refusing to accept promotion from coach. The restaurant is in ruins like now because of Jeonju's arrogance. Duckweed angrily went out. Uncle reigned in front of the vegetable shop. Two kind vegetable and butcher shop owners invited him to drink. He confided that Jeonju is protective, refuses to change, and does not know how to flexibly improvise. The two bosses admit that Jeonju is eccentric and stubborn, but her cooking skills are impeccable. Many people don't even know that restaurant exists, but who does, they will definitely come back with their children. Undeniably, it's a great hidden restaurant. The two people encouraged him to say that if he wanted the restaurant to develop, he needed someone like him. Jeonju also understands that, knowing that what he does is not in vain. Under their encouragement, he took the gift of the vegetable shop owner back to the restaurant. Seeing that the table that had just been dirty had been wiped clean, the third counter also displayed a beautiful set of plates. Jeonju has finished the rice mixed with the stone pot. The noodles only left the kimchi double cake for him. In addition, Jeonju also bought him a new outfit. Tell him to change into old sportswear that he got from the landlord. Bio-mu accepted Jeonju's loss, and at the same time gave her the gift she had just received. Jeonju was overjoyed to see that it was the chili powder she had been craving for a long time. She immediately conquered the ability of the pubic duckweed to communicate. At that time, the owner of the vegetable and meat shop led people to try it. The first time the restaurant was full, Jeonju was so busy that he couldn't rest his hands. and the conflict between her and the duckweed gradually disappeared while the two joined hands to make efforts. As the last group of guests left, the three tired people sat down and fainted to celebrate the crowded restaurant. Jeonju invites the other two to go for a drink. But just as the three of them were about to leave, a car drove into the forest right in front of them. A man got out of the car, always scolding Jeonju for losing his employee. It turned out that this person was the warm uncle of the owner of the bean sprout soup restaurant. Noodle Ung Shen has only been working there for 15 years and has just quit his job. He was scolded and slapped by his father, ordering at all costs to bring the noodles back. The warm man grabbed the noodles in his hand and pointed out to pull her away. Duckweed immediately pushed him away and chased him away. The three of them comfortably emptied their cups happily, and soon everyone was drunk. Jeonju tied her hair up neatly to avoid being entangled when she cupped her glass. Duckweed was attracted by her unloading face, and couldn't help but stare at her lips. When the air began to become shady, the duckweed received a piece of news. He was touched when he saw that the head chef of his restaurant had joined his brother. He called the head chef, but no one answered the phone. Brother Tian sent a voice message, scolding her for being a benevolent person. Hearing that, Jeonju thought he was talking to his girlfriend, but the second later he heard him screaming he would definitely steal all the recipes here, to defeat all those who dare to oppose him. She didn't understand what the duckweed was saying. At that moment, the warm man came to cause a fight, forcing her to return the tactile treatment to him. Duckweed heard the sound, and ran over in time to relieve Jeonju. Jeonju saw the two of them like middle school students fighting, pulling each other's hair. She immediately grabbed the warm man's hand, pulling and pushing one by one, causing the other party to fall to the ground. Duckweed milks people because of Jeonju's incredible strength. Jeonju approached, asking what he meant by what he had just said, but he didn't have time to answer. Jeonju speculated to himself, Duckweed must have been robbed of his girlfriend by his brother, so he came here to forget his sorrows. Duckweed hid his true intentions, and almost agreed with his head. He was indeed looking for a place to heal, but not because he was robbed of his girlfriend. Jeonju thought he was afraid to admit it in front of him, so he sympathized even more with his situation. The prince refused to give in to the threat, which would definitely cause their restaurant to close. The next day, when the three of them were busy in the restaurant, suddenly the landlord brought the new tenant to see the premises. Jeonju and Bio Mu affirmed that the restaurant was operating well, with no intention of returning the premises. The landlord said the whole town was warming up, saying their restaurant was going bankrupt. Both suspected that it was a rumor spread by the prince. They immediately took off their aprons, and immediately led them to find him to make a calculation. But when he found the person, Jeonju hesitated because there was no evidence. She thought that she shouldn't make a big deal, but she insisted that it was the prince who gave it. But the other party refused to fly, and he was so angry that he almost made a move. Fortunately, Jeonju stopped her in time, and she tried to stay calm to talk. Unexpectedly, at that time, Myung helped her call, informing her that the restaurant had just been denounced. The two hurriedly ran back to the restaurant. The fire protection force said that someone reported them violating safety regulations. Just after responding to the fire prevention inspection, the government officials came again, say that someone accused them of not having a hygiene certificate. Jeonju immediately pulled out the certificate and slammed it directly on the examination table. At this time, another officer found a bag of chili powder in the kitchen. The restaurant operation manual stipulates that only Korean domestic ingredients can be used, but this bag of chili powder is of foreign origin. Jeonju and Bae Mu explained that they only brought it home to test the taste, and had never used it. But the officials still followed the regulations and made a record of sanctions. According to Article 7, Jeonju is required to pay the fine on time. Before going to pay the penalty, Jeonju did not forget to tell Bae Mu not to cause trouble. But Bae Mu, out of anger, accused the Powder Prince's illegal garage, causing the garage to be sealed. The prince was angry, driving a supercar in front of the restaurant. Bae Mu refused to give up, borrowed his truck to sell vegetables, and blocked it right in front of the enemy's restaurant. When Jeonju returns, Lean shoots Bae Mu and behaves childishly, causing the restaurant to not be able to pick up customers. The preparation materials are also about to go bad. She blames him for only worrying about the slag on the dirty face, not really thinking about the restaurant. Bae Pubic was severely damaged, ironing and lying on the bed, He promised himself that he would not get involved in John Ju's affairs anymore. As soon as the thought crept up, he received a call from my cancer treatment. Tell him that John Ju will go get soy sauce tomorrow morning. The restaurant was in need of interaction, but could not contact the owner of the soy sauce oven. My cancer treatment is definitely caused by the Powder Prince. Thinking that maybe they shouldn't go to war with the enemy, only wish trouble to the body. Although his mouth was hard, Bei Mu still quietly went to the bus station early to go to the soy sauce furnace with John Ju. On the way, I saw John Ju nodding with sleepiness. Bei Mu sat quietly next to her so that she leaned her head on her shoulder. When they arrived, they found out that it was not the prince who made it difficult. It was because the owner of the soy sauce oven fell and had back pain, so he had to keep the soy sauce on the bed. In order to get the necessary number, John Ju and Bei Mu asked the landlord for permission and then made it themselves. While working, Bei Mu was fascinated by John Ju's attentive look, constantly sneaking a peek at her without taking her eyes off. On the way back after getting the soy sauce, it suddenly rained heavily. Bei Mu hurriedly pulled John Ju to run into a roadside phone booth to shelter from the rain. Seeing the rainwater splashing on him, John Ju reflexively pulled him closer to her. The distance between the two suddenly became very close. Bei Mu's heart pounded. He couldn't take his eyes off John Ju. The ambiguous atmosphere was broken by the sound of the phone ringing. Hearing the news that the restaurant was on fire, the two hurriedly ran back. Ms. Mai said that the glass in front of the restaurant was smashed. Police suspect someone deliberately set the fire. But because there are no cameras in the remote area, the investigation of the perpetrator will take time. Ms. Mai was emotional and suspected that the Powder Prince was the culprit. John Ju and Bei Mu immediately went to question the Dough Prince, facing the accusation. The prince firmly denied the crime, and John Ju took out his phone to call the police. Ms. Mai also rushed in, saying that a neighbor saw him loitering in front of the restaurant. The prince was about to continue arguing, but suddenly remembered the scene where he was drunk last night, smashed the glass with a stone and walked into the restaurant with a lighter. He knelt down in panic and begged, promising to compensate for all the damage. I just begged John Ju not to call the police. John Ju doesn't want the incident to spread, so he asks him to restore the current state of the kitchen. The prince brought tools to be repaired, but because he had lived happily since childhood, he did not know how to work, and the more he did, the more he lied. Only my cancer was angry, scolding him for only playing around, pretending and threatening others. That's why his father did not entrust his career to management. These words made the prince feel pain. He cried when he was young, saying that he also had a dream when he was a child, but he was always scolded by his father. Told him not to do those meaningless things, so he fell and gave up. Bei Mu listened to him, as if he saw his own shadow in him. He was also imposed by his mother for a long time, never been recognized. To help the prince regain his spirits, Bei Mu personally taught each thing, patiently explaining step by step. John Ju applauded Bei Mu's actions very much. To reward everyone, she went to the kitchen to cook Korean-style black soy sauce noodles without treating the whole group. Bei Mu looked at the plate of gelatinous noodles and looked hesitant. Under the encouragement of the prince, he reluctantly counted a piece. Unexpectedly, he couldn't stop eating, once again conquered by John Ju's cooking talent. At this time, the owner of the shop was kind enough to bring a piece of news. A 2-day food truck contest is about to take place, with a prize of up to 5 million won. If they win the first prize, they can not only renovate the restaurant but also buy new tables and chairs. It's just that you have to register before 6 p.m. At this time, there are only 15 minutes left to expire. The time is extremely urgent. The prince, who was considered a burden, eloquently declared that he would be on time, because he was the living map of this area. Bei Mu was skeptical but still got on his motorcycle. On the way, the prince galloped as fast as the wind, crossed the shortcut, hugged the crab harshly, and even slid the wheel. Finally, at the registration point at exactly 6 o'clock, he stopped the staff who were about to leave work. And the bag quickly finished filling out the registration form, sneaking it into the box before being discovered. The two coordinated well and happily returned. The prince was happy that he had finally done something successful. When he took out the lighter to take out the cigarette, he remembered the scene last night, only remembering that he broke into the restaurant and took out the lighter. But he couldn't remember whether he had set anything on fire or not. At this time, he still didn't know the person who really set the fire was someone else. Returning to the restaurant, Bei Mu suddenly encountered the chef who was lost by his brother and then came to the place again. He was worried that the chef's appearance would make Xianzhu suspicious, revealing his true purpose. He hurriedly pushed the head chef away, but was unfortunately caught by Xianzhu. In response to Xianzhu's question, Bao Mu was hurriedly told that the chef was his ex. He also made a harsh appearance, pretending to be decisive with a troublesome ex. He flattered a guy and even said that eating with her made him nauseous, and after speaking he gestured with his eyes. The head chef understood what Bao Mu meant, and she deliberately made it difficult for him. In front of Xianzhu asked, "Do you know Bao Mu's true face?" Xianzhu replied, "He'll find out about it myself, I don't need my ex to bother." The fact that Xianzhu stood up for him made Bao Mu think endlessly, unable to control his emotions. In the evening, he lay on the bed, recalling the scene where Xianzhu saw him as a family member in front of the chef and the scene of the two of them raining on the side of the road. The rumbling news made him realize that he was in love with Xianzhu. But Xianzhu didn't know it. She was focusing on preparing food for the food festival. The two of them go to buy ingredients together. The flow of people is always moving, walking and eating is a characteristic of the festival. Xianzhu wanted to make something that was easy to hold and easy to eat. But walking in the market for a long time, she still hasn't thought of anything specific. Bao Mu looked dissatisfied when she refused the high-class seafood he suggested. He felt that if he wanted to be convenient, why not make a kimbap for him? His words made Xianzhu come up with an idea, and decided to make a simple and functional kimbap. Bao Mu suggests adding tuna, sea urchins and other red soil ingredients. But Xianzhu thinks that those are useless pompous things, just making basic kimbap is the best. At the same time, Ms. Nyung went to the festival area to prepare food trucks. She saw the old car that Prince Chunseong had rented temporarily. It really can't be compared to the surrounding carts that are poorly decorated. She was worried that with a car like this, it would be difficult for them to get attention. As soon as he withdrew, the car had fallen. The two hurriedly cleaned up, keeping the dump truck clean and tidy. Soon, Xianzhu and Bao Mu also brought the ingredients. Bao Mu excitedly visited the scene of the food festival. Suddenly discovered his own company, Luxury Cave. It is a new sponsor to participate. He went to find the person in charge to argue. The brother suddenly appeared, claiming the festival sponsorship was in line with the company's vision. Bao Mu knew very well that his brother was the one who didn't even want to leave Seoul half a step. But now he came to a distant town to sponsor a food festival. Obviously the purpose was to squeeze him. He sarcastically told his brother that instead of aiming at him, he should increase the prize money for the first place team. Not giving up, the brother immediately raised the bonus from 5 million won to 10 million won. Before leaving, I also told him that my restaurant would also participate in the competition. If you want to win, you have to try twice as hard. Sure enough, Bao Mu saw the head chef leading the whole team of chefs to participate in the competition. Even the secretary followed the head chef closely to assist. The head chef will personally come to the competition site. Just because last night Bao Mu insisted that Jianzhu's cooking skills were better than hers. She was determined to go high and low today with Jianzhu. The opponent's team was extremely professionally equipped. There were many people who helped. Bao Mu helped with all his might, used to clean his credit card to buy beef and ingredients such as licorice, etc. Find all sorts of ways to make their seaweed rolls stand out. Guests at the scene after tasting can vote for their favorite restaurant. The team with the most votes will win. The dough prince saw that the food cart was different from the long queue, and no one stopped by their car. Bao Mu was worried to the point of panic at that time. A streamer who was walking while live streaming arrived in front of the food truck. Bell took the opportunity, inserted into the frame to promote it to the fullest. He also managed to convince the streamer to buy a portion of rice rolls. The streamer has a delicious tray clog without stopping, but carries that promotion. A lot of people are attracted to it. Gradually, their food trucks also had a long line of people. When night falls, Jianzhu's team has sold out all the food. They were the first vehicles to complete the task and make a fuss. His sister scooped into the tire of his car and hugged each other to celebrate. Bao Mu and Jianzhu also encouraged him to hug each other, turning back to the head chef. Because it took too long to make duck thighs, customers began to lose patience, switching to other cars one after another. The chef was confused like silk, and saw that Bao Mu was dirty with the board early, and turned to play with her tongue. That night, the head chef promised his brother that tomorrow he would try twice as hard to get past Bao Mu and his team. Who would have thought that her brother would insult her on the spot, saying that he did not force her to participate in the exam. She herself registered on her own, and now she even ruined the whole contest, not worthy of being a Korean chef. The chef angrily accused him of being a bastard, blaming him for racking his brains in the past, personally dragged herself from Belle Mew's restaurant. Now he is constantly being pinched and lowered, compared to the tense confrontation between the two. The atmosphere between Jeonju and Belle Mew is very harmonious. Jeonju returns to the restaurant to prepare ingredients for tomorrow, and accidentally finds a lighter on the kitchen floor. She thought it was Belle Mew's thing and he was not allowed to smoke near the restaurant. Belle Mew explained he hasn't smoked at the restaurant recently. He stared at the words on the lighter, as if he had discovered something. The next day, his father came to the food festival again full of confidence, but did not have time to open for sale. I saw my brother invite a famous singer to promote the chef's food truck. Everyone was drawn to that side. Belle Mew ran to calculate the book with the head chef. The chef frankly said that he didn't invite the singer to come. Belle Mew immediately understood that it was not his brother's game. Returning to the food truck, his father was worried about what to do. They are forced to come up with new ideas. At this time, Jun Sung brought out his family's heirloom non-alcoholic wine, proposed a program to buy rice rolls and give wine. Jeonju and Belle Mew finished tasting and were completely conquered by the taste of the wine. When the group thought of a name for the new combo, it was just when the chimmer stopped by yesterday. He still craved the taste of yesterday, wanting to buy an extra portion of rice rolls. Belle Mew immediately processed and made a billboard advertising rice rolls with non-alcoholic wine. Thanks to the continued promotion of the chimmer, more and more customers came to visit. Both his father rushed into his busy job, Ms. Myung and Jun Sung, because they wanted to sell goods. It was rumored that Belle Mew and Jeonju were newlyweds, going out to sell goods to earn money to buy milk for the baby, especially for the baby's rice rolls. Belle Mew had to continue to act just to retain customers. He looked at Jeonju shyly. Fortunately, Jeonju didn't show any annoyance. When the ingredients are sold out again, the food festival gradually closes. Belle Mew and everyone were very confident in the number of votes, nervously sitting under the stage waiting for the winner to be announced. But what stunned them was that the winning team was the head chef's team. That is, his brother's restaurant, and they only won the runner-up position. June was so angry that she wanted to bang the table and leave, but Jeonju chooses to accept reality. Even though there is no prize of 100 million, but it was still enough to remodel the kitchen, she was very satisfied. Belle Mew stopped his brother as he was about to leave. He guessed that it was his brother who spared the votes. Angry at him for targeting him, touching dirty tricks again and again, even set fire to the restaurant. He realized the lighter was his brother's, but the brother didn't admit it, then closed the car window and drive straight. Belle Mew returned to the scene and saw Jeonju laughing and joking with the children. Next to him, the chef muttered a sentence, "country furniture." Belle Mew immediately asked the chef to speak carefully. The head chef deliberately hangs you like Jeonju, don't you? Belle was embarrassed, stammered, and hurriedly changed the subject. He walked up to Jeonju and asked her softly why she didn't go back first to Sister Mai. Jeonju replied with a smile. She was waiting for him to come back. The children rushed to play again. Jeonju suddenly grabbed Belle Mew's hand and ran away. He was surprised for a moment, then smiled slightly, letting her face drag to the door of the restaurant. When he let go of his hand, he still had a bit of attachment. Belle looked at the drops of sweat on Jeonju's hair, finally unable to hide his feelings. He had a crush on a person, and that person was Jeonju. After speaking, Belle Mew took the initiative to kiss Jeonju. At first, Jeonju was a little, but then she listened to her heart and closed her eyes. However, the sweet air was interrupted by Ms. Ung and Chun Sung appeared suddenly. Jeonju was startled and immediately pushed the Belle out, trying to hide the intimate act between the two. My sister was upset and joked that it was progressing quickly. Just a few days ago, we didn't even talk together. Now it's time to hug and kiss. Belle Mew couldn't hide the joy on his face, and kept looking at Jeonju. I want to know if she feels like me, if she hopes the relationship goes one step further. But to his disappointment, Jeonju seriously asked Sister Mai to be upset and stop teasing. Solemnly said that the kiss just now was just a mistake, forbidding this to be mentioned again. Belle was hurt, his mood dropped. At that time, a couple came in to inquire. The woman in the couple was French. Because he had studied abroad, Belle Mew chatted in French very fluently. My sister was upset and stood next to her in admiration. Waiting for the guest to leave, the two immediately asked what the guest wanted. Belle Mew said they wanted to make a reservation for the other day. He didn't even have time to say it all. Jeonju suddenly said that she couldn't get a reservation, saying that the couple was about to get married. The girl's parents were going to fly from France, but her mother couldn't eat the jaws. Moreover, neither side of the family supports this transnational marriage. At this time, the three of them knew that Jeonju also spoke French. She thought that the kitchen had not been cleaned yet, and wanted to refuse the order. Belmu analyzed the benefits and harms, accepted private party orders, and could earn a whole week a day. If both parents liked their food, while helping them cultivate their marriage, it has helped the restaurant become much more famous. Ms. Mai Ung and Chun Sung both agreed with Belmu's opinion. Jeonju had to agree. In the evening, Jeonju works part-time to study French tastes. When I went out to breathe, I saw Belmu drunk in the wind in front of the door. Belmu saw her, and immediately ran after her to ask why she said that the kiss between them was wrong. Then loudly confessing his love, he earnestly wants to be a part of Jeonju's life. He promised not to affect her work at the restaurant, and just ask for one chance to go on a date after work. After the appointment, if it doesn't fit, you can stop. Before leaving, he promised her that after welcoming the French guests, he would go out to prepare to welcome new guests with a new look. Belmu specially ordered a new uniform. All four of them changed their clothes, confidently ready to start work. But Jeonju didn't expect that her ex-boyfriend would appear at this time. The moment I saw him, the memories of the old days came back. That year they worked together at a French restaurant in Japan. Sweet and stable feelings, but a mistake when preparing ingredients has caused great damage. When the chef searched for the person responsible, the boyfriend did not dare to admit his fault. Jeonju took responsibility on his behalf and was dismissed by the restaurant. Remembering the old story, Jeonju burst into tears. After calming down, she agreed to sit and talk properly with her ex-boyfriend. Belmu was jealous, not wanting the two of them to be separate. Together with Ms. Mai, she scooped into the tire of the car and stood outside eavesdropping. Ms. Mai Ung emotionally showed Belmu the photo she found. Suspecting her boyfriend is not simple, Belmu sees pictures in ice. I just learned that Jeonju once graduated from the top culinary school in the United States. The appearance of the former made Jeonju poisoned, which also made Belmu feel uneasy. He was worried that Jeonju would return to his old province. He still texted, reminding her to be alert to welcome the upcoming important guest. The next day, the young couple took their parents to the restaurant. Jeonju and Mai Ung help in charge of the food. Belmu and Chun Exeung are in charge of serving. Since both parties opposed transnational marriage, so the parents were as cold as money when they sat down, the atmosphere was heavily stressed. Belmu brought out the dish that Jeonju had studied carefully. After tasting it, both sides were full of praise, and saw that the air gradually calmed down. Belmu stood as an interpreter and bridged communication. Little by little, the parents also gradually dissolved their aggression. Raising a glass happily, the atmosphere becomes harmonious and cozy. The party ended. Everyone sincerely thanked Jeonju's food and Belmu's service. Everyone is very satisfied with the restaurant. After the reception, the Belle mum reminded Jeonju not to forget the appointment. Who would have thought that at that moment the ex-boyfriend would appear again? Belmu Lo Jeonju changed her mind, wanting to get rid of her ex-boyfriend. But Jeonju told him to go first, promising to see him before 9 o'clock. After Belmu left, the ex-boyfriend clearly stated the purpose of coming, wanting to resume their old love with Jeonju, return to Japan together. Belmu was waiting, but he was restless, worried that Jeonju would return to his old love. Fortunately, not long after, he saw Jeonju arrive on time. He took Jeonju to the carefully decorated rooftop to watch the movie. The atmosphere is both shy and romantic, especially when there is a kissing scene in the movie. The two became even more embarrassed. After watching the movie, Jeonju asked Belmu why she wasn't curious about her and her ex-boyfriend. Belmu made a relaxed look, saying that if she wanted to tell him, she would tell him herself. Jeonju confides that she is an orphan, abandoned in a temple at the foot of the mountain. Childhood memories are only pagodas and monks. Growing up, she fell in love with cooking, graduated from studying Vietnamese cuisine, and then went to work at a French restaurant in Japan. There she met her ex-boyfriend. He treated her very well and she loved him very much. Knowing that her ex-boyfriend wanted her to return to Japan, Belmu hurriedly asked her what she thought. Jeonju smiled brightly. She said that she was running Dung Goat very well, and she couldn't give up what she had. Belmu only breathed a sigh of relief at that time. But the next morning when she arrived at the restaurant, Ms. Mai Young told him. Jeonju left a letter and went to Japan. In the letter, she wrote to temporarily hand over the kitchen to Ms. Mai, telling Belmu to wait for her to call. At the end of the letter, he also drew a general one. Belmu and the other two found the common one according to the drawing. The findings on the general set of operating rules for the use of goats. Other materials must ensure freshness. Remember to use a windshield. In addition, there is a dish handbook. Jeonju hopes that during her absence, Ms. Mayung Shue will cook according to the manual, keeping the restaurant running stably. Then the night before leaving, my ex-boyfriend called Jeonju said that Chef Kong, whom she respected the most, was seriously ill. Hope you come to see her one last time. Therefore, Jeonju joined him on a flight to Japan. Belmu was determined to create something in her absence, to make her look at him with different eyes. Unfortunately, Ms. Mai's skills are not good enough. Ju followed the manual, but the food still couldn't be as good as Jeonju did. Disappointing diners, every woman has leftover food. Bell looked at the restaurant and felt helpless. At that moment, his secretary suddenly arrived. In front of my sister and Jun-sung, he pretended to be Bell's hometown friend, speaking of visiting him when there were only 2 people left. The new secretary revealed the real purpose. The head chef she followed, her brother, had been fired. She went back to Belmu's restaurant. In order to defeat his brother, the secretary wants to continue his plan to steal Junji's recipe manual. If you can do that, Belmu's restaurant will definitely achieve 3 stars. In fact, originally Belmu came to Junj to steal the recipe. But after working with Jeonju, he changed his mind. Now all he wants is to run Junj with everyone, to prevent the secretary from achieving his goal. Belmu quietly put away the notebook on the scissors table. Afterwards, Jun-sung, who already disliked the secretary, wished the wine to make him drunk. Let him sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Away from Junj, Jun-sung took out the pumpkin wine and moved it to the house. A little glass for the secretary to get drunk. Just finished arranging for the secretary, Belmu received a phone call from Jeonju to report his safety. He had 1,000 questions to ask, but he heard the voice of his ex-boyfriend calling Jeonju's name from the other end of the line. Jeonju immediately threw off the phone. Belmu couldn't keep calm anymore. He decided to immediately go to Japan to look for her. He first locked up the secretary, forbidding him to enter the Junj. Then hand over the restaurant to Jun-sung to manage for him. After taking care of everything, he immediately flew to Japan. Jeonju first arrived in Japan and went to the hospital to visit Chef Kong. Unfortunately, he no longer recognized her. The chef who was once full of male temperament is now only a small pancreatic patient. Jeonju couldn't accept it, and she ran away from the hospital room. Her ex-boyfriend told her, "Chef Kong has not eaten or drunk for many days. Hope you cook a meal for him." After all, he used to love the food she cooked. After visiting the restaurant, the ex-boyfriend clarified, now he is the head chef, and he will replace the head chef Kong as the boss. Jeonju reminds him not to be too greedy. Being both a chef and a boss is not an easy task. Her ex-boyfriend took the opportunity to invite her back to help. It is also for him to have a chance to make amends. He thinks that she clings to the goat and has no future. Jeonju didn't even have time to answer. Duckweed came to find her, stepped up and shouted at her ex-boyfriend. In his eyes, a goat is 1,000 times better than a blind pair. Jeonju blamed Mu for leaving the restaurant on his own. Bio Mu loudly confessed, "I came to find you because I miss you." After leaving the market, the 3 of them went to drink together. When Jeonju enters the toilet, the 2 rivals confront each other fiercely. The ex-boyfriend boasted that he had dated Jeonju for 3 years, understanding her as well as the palm of his hand. Duckweed counterattack, whether it is 3 years or 30 years, is a thing of the past. The ex-boyfriend continued to attack, saying that the name Dung Goat was given to the restaurant by Jeonju. It is because the 2 of them had previously promised to open a restaurant with such a name outside Saigon. Duckweed is hurt by that fact. At that moment, he received a call from the head chef. The head chef asked him to see the photos immediately. The Duckweed opened it and looked at it. Unexpectedly, it was a photo of her ex-boyfriend. Then the head chef went back to his brother's restaurant to get the food, accidentally discovered on his computer a series of documents about the upcoming deal with Lemurai. Looking at the photo, she guessed that her brother was going to take over the luxury cave at all costs. If he succeeds, he will no longer have a place in the luxury cave. At this time, he saw Jianju and his ex-boyfriend chatting happily. In terms of getting cold, he silently made a decision. After leaving the bar, Biomu and Jianju went to a roadside noodle shop for a late-night meal. Jianju noticed that the owner was making a rather strange sea urchin noodle, so he asked a few more questions. The owner said the recipe was taught by a chef friend. Unfortunately, every time he came, that friend kept muttering. It was still not the same as what the child had done. Jianju immediately recognizes the friend the owner says is Chef Kong. And the child in his words was her. That year, to improve the meals for the staff, she added the leftover sea urchin to the noodles. Unexpectedly, he was praised by everyone. At that time, Chef Kong didn't praise her at all. But after she left, he forever searched for that taste in his memory. Biomu suggested making sea urchin noodles for Chef Kong. Maybe that taste could help him recover his health. Before parting, Jianju lightly kissed her back, to thank her for always being by her side, encouraging and empowering her. Duckweed stopped evilly touching the place that had just been kissed and laughed stupidly. Having fallen in love with Jianju, he just wanted her to be happy and happy. Things like stealing the recipe would hurt her, he absolutely wouldn't do it. Breaking up with Jianju, she looks for her ex-boyfriend, directly exposed the fact that he planned to sell the Lemurai restaurant to his brother, and inquire about the real reason for wanting to bring Jianju back. The name of the ex-lover knew that he was the second young man of the rich family, suspecting that he was deliberately humble, clinging to Jianju all day. There must have been some kind of open purpose. On this side, Jianju went to the market early in the morning to buy fresh sea urchins. At first, he made an appointment to go with her, but he never appeared, and he couldn't make a phone call. After buying the ingredients, she returned to the Lemurai restaurant to start working. After a busy while, everyone brought a bowl of sea urchin noodles to the front of Chef Kong. As soon as he tasted the familiar taste, he immediately called out Jianju's name, held her hand tightly, and apologized. Cooking the wrong dish made Jianju quit his job in the past. He knew it wasn't her fault, but he didn't stand up for it. Jianju gently ate the Chef Kong. It's all over. I've let go. Now I live very well. The ex-lover saw that Chef Kong recovered his spirits and drove everyone out. Said that he had something to say to him in private. Soon, he walked out of the hospital room, sending everyone the contract to transfer ownership. Announced that he would become the head chef and owner of the Lemurai restaurant and would sell the restaurant to Mr. Uskar. I vowed that it was all because of the thought of the Chef Kong, but Jianju had already suppressed his words. In fact, she investigated and found out that the place where the medicine was thrown away belonged to Chef Kong. Suspecting that he wanted to take over the restaurant, he deliberately threw away the cigarettes. The ex-lover justified that Chef Kong himself did not want to be paralyzed by the drug, so he asked him to throw it away. As for selling a restaurant, I think about the staff. Now the restaurant is at a serious loss, unable to pay salaries. If it is not about to be imported, it can only be closed. Regardless of what his ex says, Jianju still thinks that he is only for personal gain. At this time, Belmu, who had been silent from the beginning, told him that the imminent merger had been cancelled. Last night, Belmu called his mother, asking her to help him restore his position. After that, he immediately flew back to Korea. As a shareholder, he prevented the imminent merger between Mr. Uskar and Lemurai. The plan fell apart and made the ex-lover angry. He swung his fist at Belmu, and the two rushed into a fight. Jianju rushed over angrily, pushing out the Belmu. The chef in the hospital room spoke up to prevent the brawl. He asked everyone to come into the room. Chef Kong held Jianju's hand and asked her if she had found the dish she wanted to make. After that, he called his ex-lover to come closer. The ex-lover thought he would be scolded, but he didn't expect Chef Kong to hug him. He said he knew he was just as worried about the future of the Murai as he was. As long as we think about ways together, we will definitely overcome difficulties. The ex-lover was full of regret, bowed his head by the bed and cried non-stop. After Chef Kang's health recovered, Jianju decided to return to Korea. Before leaving, she once again refused her ex's insistence. Looking at the duckweed waiting in the snow, she frankly said that she would keep it. Memories of the past with your ex in your heart, then you will let go and move on. On the return flight, Jianju leaned on his shoulder to take a nap. Biomu felt extremely sweet when he suddenly received a message from his mother. She said she had helped him restore his position and that he owed her a favor. Finally returned to Dongyi, where he longed day and night. The two of them hugged Ms. Ung full of emotion. Ms. Myung pleaded with each other because Chun Se-ung did not go to work. The compatriot of the duckweed who came to help also quietly left. At this time, he remembered that the secretary pretended to be a compatriot and was locked in the warehouse by him. He hurriedly ran there, not expecting that the person who was locked up was not the secretary, but Chun Se-ung. Chun Se-ung blamed himself for the trap when he brought rice to the secretary. The secretary and the chef locked him up, realizing that the chef had sneaked into Dongyi. Seeing the danger, he immediately returned to Dongyi to check if the menu was still safe. Unexpectedly, the menu did not fly. To prevent the chef from stealing the menu, he called her and drove back. At this time, the chef looked at the phone but deliberately did not pick up. Because that day there was an examiner who came to the restaurant to make a wish. She plans to use Jeonju's menu to win 3 stars, thereby proving her strength. Duckweed couldn't wait to return to the motorcycle restaurant under his name, just as the judges had just left. Just before that, the head chef used the Goodwill snow dish on Jeonju's menu, receiving simultaneous praise from the judges. Realizing that I was late, Duckweed angrily scolded the head chef for stealing other people's efforts shamelessly. The head chef loudly retorted that it was just learning his familiar game. He also emphasized that this is her home ground, and Dongyi is just a springboard. She asked him to permanently stop serving the Goodwill snow at Dongyi. The cunning Duckweed returned to Dongyi, sneakily put the menu back in the same place when no one noticed. Unexpectedly, as soon as she finished ordering, Jeonju appeared behind her. Fortunately, she didn't notice his actions. 3 days, when he returned to the motorcycle, he left a colored paper saying that he was not feeling well and asked for half a day off. From his words, Jeonju knew that the chef had been to Dongyi. At this time, she still thought that the chef was the ex-girlfriend of the plotter, so she suspected that he was taking a leave to meet that person. But Jeonju didn't ask him anything more and brought him a bowl of pre-cooked mung bean porridge, hoping to help him nourish his body. Bio-mu was both touched and loved, wanting to tell her the truth. But when he looked at those clear eyes, he couldn't utter a word the next day when a guest wearing a hat walked into the restaurant. After leaving, he left a lighter on the table. Bio-mu immediately realized that this lighter was exactly the same one that had caused the fire in the restaurant. He remembered that this person was dissatisfied when the restaurant was taken over and came to the gate of the group to protest. The duckweed immediately went to the place where the person was sheltering, questioning why he set fire to Dongyi. The man bluntly said that it was because he wanted revenge. At that time, he protested for many days without anyone pointing a finger, while the duckweed plotted to live happily and leisurely. Feeling unfair, he wanted to teach him a lesson. Duckweed said in a cold warning voice, if he dared to touch Dongyi, he would not leave it alone. After meeting the man, he went to see his mother again. She said the corporation would deal with the arsonist and asked him to return to his position soon. She also mentioned that the judges highly appreciated the Goodwill snow. If you order 3 stars, other restaurants will not be able to make this dish anymore. The best way is to make Dongyi close the door. Duckweed begged his mother to give him more time. But his mother reminded him that he should continue the old way, not from tricks to get the menu. The duckweed fell into a dilemma. Jeonju did not know it, and saw that everyone had been working hard for several days. She led the group to the temple where she grew up to relax. Everyone and the monks in the temple chanted and cultivating their temperament. The mood gradually became calm. That night, he secretly came to find John, wanting to confess to stealing the menu. But she dragged him to see the moon. He couldn't help but break that beautiful peaceful moment, and once again swallowed the words he was about to say in his heart. Jeonju confided in him about his childhood. When she was abandoned in the past, the host discovered her and treated her as her own child. The monks in the temple also treat her like a relative. This place will forever be her home. She also asked about her life story. She also mentioned the first time she tried to eat kimchi in Dongyi. A strange expression appeared on his face. Jeonju immediately thought that he was a man with a story of his own. Bio-mu only said that he had eaten kimchi that tasted like this, made by his grandmother. I don't want to say anything else. Before leaving the temple, the monk told them that no one in the world is free from mistakes. Those who do not see the truth clearly live in darkness forever. Hopefully, after returning, everyone can find their own truth. The monk's words made the plot restless. John Doe made him understand that human beings do not only fight alone, but sincerity is more precious than money. Before he could finish speaking, John Doe suddenly kissed him. The kiss ended, and he was about to continue to confess, when his brother suddenly burst in. Not long before, my brother received a message from the duckweed, said that he did not want to go back to his old position and give up his status as the successor of the cave. However, when he knew that only Mr. Chin's house, relying on the menu stolen by duckweed to achieve 3 Michelin stars, he thought that the plot had deceived him. Out of anger, he decided to teach duckweed a lesson. He came in front of John Doe and besieged the plot to come here to steal the menu, and the dish that helps them get 3 stars is from that menu. In response to John's question, the trickster admitted with difficulty. Originally, he really came here to get the recipe, wanting to make the middle goat have to close the door. Jianju could not accept this cruel truth. Angry that he had retorted her sincere feelings, not letting him explain further. He who has ruined everything is lifeless. John's grief could not be relieved. She was still laughing and joking like every day when she came to the restaurant. But when he saw John Doe sitting in prayer and scheming, he could not see it. Chun Zung was about to call the schemer, but John Doe stopped him. She announced that from now on there are only 3 of them left in the restaurant, and she will not come back. Chun thought the couple was arguing, but she felt that something was wrong. It wasn't just an argument. John Doe didn't explain much. She put all her mind into cooking, but someone who was always a perfectionist like her kept making mistakes. Sometimes I forget to add sauce, sometimes I leave the fishbone sauce unremoved. She realized that her current state was not suitable for cooking, and immediately asked what had happened. John Doe was no longer hidden. She said that the cunning had come from the beginning just to steal the recipe. Chun Zung couldn't believe it, but John Doe's serious, distressed expression made him unable to believe it. Bio plotted to return to the motorcycle restaurant, ignoring the obstruction of the secretary and the head chef. He submitted his resignation, then hugged his clothes and walked out into the heavy rain, thinking of the painful gaze of John Doe who was hurt by him. He couldn't help but burst into tears in the rain. At the same time, John traveled to adjust her mood, temporarily closing the restaurant and returning to the temple where she grew up. As soon as she saw the chairman, she cried in her arms. The chairman patted her, advising her to put aside all jealous thoughts and find peace in her heart. At night, he presided over a stargazing tour with John. John Doe confided that she had sincerely loved, but was deceived by her own trusted person, and was in great pain. The chairman recounted the old story, when John Doe left the temple as an adult, who was very worried about her life out there. But just now, watching her make cakes, people realized that she had a different perspective on cooking. Now, instead of just caring about the cooking process, she cares more about how the person who enjoys it. The chairman advised her to think carefully about the reason for this change. Maybe she would find the answer she was looking for. Unable to sleep, John got up early and prepared breakfast for the monks. When standing in the kitchen, she seemed to see the image of herself blowing her baby. When she was a child, John Doe asked how long did she intend to hide. She should not cook here, but go back to the goat. John Doe was moved to tears, presiding over the dish she used to like when she was a child. Said that the duckweed had come here quietly, but he only dared to hide, did not dare to meet her. Bio Mu joked that he used to think he was a liberal man, but looking back now, he was just a coward who didn't dare to speak the truth. Presiding over the exhortation of John to go down the mountain, all the troubles in his heart, only the opposite can find a solution to achieve true peace. At this time, John Doe still did not know at the foot of the mountain was lying. The Michelin, the Diamond Review organization, officially announced the list of Korean restaurants with 3 stars. Mom waited nervously, not sitting outside her restaurant. There is also another restaurant that also received 3 stars. That is the Goat Dung of John Doe. No one knew that Dung Goat achieved 3 stars thanks to the reception of a foreign couple in the past. And the girl's father is the judge of the Diamond organization. He could not forget the taste of the John Doe dish he used to cook and took the initiative to add a 3-star serving for the goat. Mother Duckweed is not committed to not being able to monopolize the throne. She immediately went to the producer who had invited her to television, asking her to remake the show in a different way. After that, she sent someone to find the duckweed who was drinking wine to relieve her sorrow. At this time, he knew that Dung Goat was also awarded 3 stars, but he didn't know what his mother came for. She got straight to the point, wanting to organize a duel between Moto and Dung Goat. The 3-star status is only for one restaurant. Like the competition between him and his brother for a long time, in the end there was only one winner. Bio Mu replied bluntly, even if it was a test with his brother, whether it was a competition or a test plan in Mr. Uskar, he was not interested. His mother saw that the child refused to listen, and immediately let go of the threat. Mr. Uskar bought the building where Dung Goat is headquartered. If he doesn't cooperate in filming the show, she will make John Doe have no place in the culinary industry. To protect the goat, Duckweed came to her to shovel and rubberize the wagon. He was criticized and scolded by them, and even begged them to join him in protecting the goat. She was angry and still insisted on not forgiving. Duckweed had to go back to the goat to think about how to solve it. Overnight, she changed her mind. They agreed to stand side by side with him to keep the goat. Both the butcher and the delivery shop also came to help. Bio Mu emotionally hugged them one by one, thanking him for accompanying him in difficult times. The program team began to prepare for the official recording session. The motive of the car that Ung Yu entered included busy filming, and the goat Dung was not inferior. Bio Mu assigned tasks to everyone. He encouraged them. This recording was the life and death battle of the goat. Even if Jiandu was not present, they had to go all out to win. Everyone clapped their hands together to grab the spirit, and the lake echoed the victory of the goat. The confrontation contest between Ung Yu and Dung Goat officially began recording. In addition to the mother on the judge's chair, when the second judge appeared, Bio Mu and everyone were stunned. This person was the father of the international bride they had entertained. He drew lots to compete for 2 restaurants. The mandatory ingredient was chicken. First, 30 veteran influencers will score the tasting points. Then it was the turn of the 2 judges to give points. The higher total score will be the winner. As the current head chef of Dung Goat, she decided to make chicken stewed with wine according to the recipe of the car on the road. If you want to cook delicious stewed chicken, quality fresh chicken is the key factor. Duckweed and everyone ran around all day without finding chickens. Duckweed guessed that it was because the car was playing badly, cutting off their supply. There was no other way, they had to use frozen chicken instead, even if it was only a temporary solution. Before overtime, everyone's belly, even if it was frozen meat. It is also necessary to cook the most unique flavor. This battle must go all out. After everyone left, the car quietly appeared after returning from the temple. After not seeing each other for a few days, she felt confused when she returned to her hometown. He didn't know how to deal with everyone, so he planned to hide for a while. At that moment, the Duckweed brother suddenly appeared. Seondu had no sympathy for this arrogant brother. Lien coldly asked him what he was doing here. He explained that, in their mother's eyes, career always comes first. Both Yu and the Duckweed grew up in that environment and he was tired of it. He hopes the car can understand the past of the Duckweed and give him one more chance to learn the truth. The car took the initiative to go to the motor of the Duckweed. The secretary of the Duckweed apologized for stealing the recipe, begging her to forgive her. She also said that before meeting the car on the road, Bio Mu is a person who only knows benefits, does not understand anything about emotions. When she was a child, because her mother was busy with her career, she often neglected her children. Duckweed longs for her mother's love but is always cold. Fortunately, there is also a grandmother by her side to take care of her. After her grandmother died, she grieved immensely, but his mother, the only daughter, did not attend the funeral because he was busy with work. Her passing also swept away her last belief in human emotions. It wasn't until he met the car that he found his soul and became gentle and caring. At this time, he still didn't know that the car had returned and understood his past. She is quietly supporting emotional therapy. They used frozen chicken to cook the perfect stewed chicken. The influencers tasted Mato's grilled chicken and Dung Ye's stewed chicken one after another. The 2 judges came to Dung Ye, enjoyed the stewed chicken and then scored. Combining points from influencers, the producer gave the results to the mother of Duckweed to announce. She saw that Dung Ye scored 93 points, while Mato only had 89 points. The assistant of the bride's father also softly confirmed that Dung Ye won. But the mother lied on the air that the 2 sides were equal in points. As a result, the bride's father was indignant, accused her of distorting the truth and left the recording on the spot. The mother of the pubic duckweed was still cold, announcing the organization of the sub-round. Bio Mu criticized my mother excessively, We put in a lot of effort and were treated unfairly. When the mother and daughter confronted, the on-trip car suddenly appeared, accepting one more round of the exam. She proposed that this time there was no need for any other judges, only the mother of the duckweed tasted it. If she is not satisfied, she will take the initiative to close the door of Dongyi. The mother agreed. After confirming that the camera had recorded the words of the car, she left satisfied. Bio Mu apologized to the car for traveling, wanting to talk clearly about the relationship between the two. But the car did not give him a chance to open his mouth. She said, "Wait for the exam to be over, let's talk later." At this time, Duckweed received a message from her brother, inviting him to go drinking. The first time the two brothers sat down and calmly chatted, they both understood very well they were inherently close relatives. Just because my mother imposed the system of selecting heirs, causing brotherly feelings to be divided, then he became an opponent, getting lost more and more on the wrong path. My brother was happy that he had found what he really wanted. Bio Mu also advised him to listen to himself, not to be blind to his mother anymore. The next morning, the mother of the duckweed came to Dongyi on time. The duckweed was going to help, but was chased out by the car on the road. Chun pulled his pubic duckweed and his mother sat at the same table. Soon, the carriage brought food, and she scooped up portions for the three of them. She introduced this as a family dish that most Koreans used to eat when they were children. During her absence, she realized that cooking must put the preferences of diners first. She hopes this dish can rekindle the friendship between their mother and daughter. Duckweed ate the first piece of kimchi and saw the taste exactly like grandma's dish. This brother, my mother, finally tried it and saw the shrimp cake. She recalled lying on television that she used to make that dish for her children. But in fact, she has never prepared meals for her children. Her cold heart began to tremble. Her three heads were fixed in front of the camera, pretending that the food was so bad that she wanted to vomit. But now, she could no longer do that unconscionable thing. Finally, the mother also praised the food of the Ondu car very delicious. The crisis of the sub-round was gently solved by the Ontur car. Mother Duckweed also got the desired propaganda videos. Before leaving, she declared the goat dung could continue to operate. The two sides are also no longer competitors. Before getting into the car, his brother took a look at his hat. Make an appointment again when you have free time to go out for a drink together. After speaking, he returned to the car. Suddenly, I heard my mother say something that had never happened. Next time, she also wants to go with her two children to visit her grandmother's grave. After entering the mother's brother, the duckweed and the car on the road together breathed lightly. Seeing that the car was about to return to the restaurant, Duckweed immediately chased after him to apologize for having intended to steal the recipe. He hopes the car Ondu gives him the opportunity to make mistakes. The car stopped, telling every trouble that Duckweed had caused since the day they met. On the outside, it seems to be reproaching, but in fact, it is joyful. The two have had many beautiful and unforgettable memories. How many bad things did you cause that you still keep me? Because I like you? The duckweed hugged her, confessing her sincere feelings. The two were about to kiss when they were scooped into the rubber car that was hiding, accidentally causing a noise. Duckweed chased after the car because it ruined the romantic atmosphere. The four of them laughed and joked, returning to the days of fighting together.